All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Court of the Rings on twitch.tv/LotraStream. I'm your community manager, Cordovan, and I'm going to be with you for the next hour. We're going to do a bunch of talking about things that are happening, that have happened, that will be happening. We're going to be in game. I'm actually on Peregrine. Transfers have chilled out to the point that, yep, I took up a space in the queue briefly. We're at the point now that transfers are back to just taking seconds again, which is great news for us. Things are full speed ahead on transfers. Most people have gotten their transfers done at this point. Of course, there are still plenty of transfers left, which is why we're doing the period through August 31st. But for the most part, other than people who ran into issues during the character transfer process, and some people who have between now and Monday to do those transfers over, we're good to go. So we're ready to open housing on Monday. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that, let you know kind of what to expect and how it's going to go. It's also a busy time in the Lord of the Rings Online. We just released 43.2. We've got a very small patch going live next week as well. The Tier 2 version of the raid opened up yesterday, and Tier 3 opens up in 2 weeks. I will check my own timing on that here as we get to the news. But things are active on the Discord. If we haven't crossed 17,000 by this point, I haven't looked today. That's the only reason I don't know. Yep, here we are. We're past 17,000 members on the Lotra Discord, and things are hopping there. They're busy on the forums as well. In game, besides all the patches and things, the development team is hard at work on what's next. We've got the anniversary coming up really within just a few weeks here, and things happening there related to that. We also are just about ready to release our next letter to the players from Orion. So my expectation is that unless something happens between the time I'm saying this now and next week, we should be good to go to publish that letter to the players. If we can get it out on Monday, we will. But because we are opening housing on Monday as well, there is some level of, well, let's be real here and see if we can actually do that. But either way, it'll be a matter of days at this point until the next letter to the players is out. That's going to take a look at the next 6 months, really, in the Lord of the Rings Online and give you a whole bunch more information than you currently know. We have the casual stroll with Scenario next week, and week after we've got our next cave troll. I hear there's some pretty cool things that they're going to be doing for Ryan and Scenario show for the We Have a Cave Troll show that you can find here on Lotra Stream. And then in game, we just got a lot of things happening too. So it is busy like you would not believe. This is probably one of the busiest times, among the busiest times I've been involved with the Lord of the Rings Online. And it's been really stressful, anxiety-inducing, a little bit of a panic sometimes, but it's also been really heartening to see the response to our transfers. You've come out in large numbers to visit these new worlds, and we really appreciate that. We have been hard at work, and we're going to keep doing work to manage game performance and population issues on Orcrist. That's probably one of our highest technical concerns, right? Maybe the highest technical concern right now is solving some issues really with just Orcrist is too full. It's one of those good-bad problems, in that it's great that there's that kind of response to it, but problematic in that we still have a bunch of people that need to transfer over, in addition to handling really the performance-related populations on Orcrist. Or issues, rather, on Orcrist. So what we've done in the past week for Orcrist in particular is we've been adding really as many resources as we can. You get in this weird place where at some point it gets into hardware stuff that I'm not even really all that competent on speaking about. But you get to a point where you can only go so big, essentially, with the footprint that you got. And we're there with Orcrist. So that is one of the reasons why we reopened transfers to really everything except for Orcrist. Was that yesterday or the day before or something like that? And that's where we are right now. We will be reopening transfer. Actually, where are we? Did we reopen transfers to Orcrist? I think we're almost there if we're not there yet. Let me see what I just said. What did I state? Here we go. Yes, we do have transfers to Orcrist available right now, and that is because we also have the transfers from Orcrist going on to Meriadoc. So we want people to get their stuff done on Orcrist and full speed ahead. Please do, though, consider on Orcrist moving to Meriadoc. We have also announced plans, and this is the big one. I don't have much detail for you today. We are going to be opening additional servers. As of today, it's looking like something like one US, one EU, and we'll see where we get by the end of it. And this is really due to the fact that both Glamdring and Orcrist are essentially full. Glamdring a little less so, but essentially there as well. They've got a little more breathing room yet, whereas Orcrist has already used up all that breathing room. That's basically where it is. And so we're going to be reopening or opening a couple of new servers and doing transfers to it and things like that. In the coming weeks, we'll have more information about that, including the time, the names, and how it's all going to work. But the idea is we need to relieve some of the population on Orcrist specifically, Glamdring probably as well, and give all the players who have yet to transfer an opportunity to go to either Peregrine or these new worlds, Glamdring. They can still go. There's no plan that I'm aware of right now to restrict transfers to Orcrist or Glamdring again, unless we have to, and that's really where we are. So, that's busy too. I've been talking about names of those new worlds. I think we've got our names, but I'm not quite ready to share them with you here today. It's going to be a little bit yet before they're ready. And I would also just say, though, that also Meriadoc and Peregrine are also doing quite well. I've seen some people on, say, the Orcrist or Glamdring threads, Orcrist threads in particular, saying, well, I don't want to go to the smaller server. And, we certainly understand that. I would just point out, though, that both Meriadoc and Peregrine are doing well. They're doing just fine for populations as well. So perfectly healthy populations on both of those worlds too. We've seen a big response from the entire community and people coming back on these new 64-bit worlds. And in many cases, people are reporting a great experience. And Orcrist, however, has been struggling, and that's what we've been really having to manage for about the past week or so. It's really a peak population issue on Orcrist. Once you hit like European prime times and weekends, things just get too full. And although we've got all the resources possible at this point, really functioning and rocking and rolling, it's still just full. So, yeah. Let me get a little bit to chat before I get to some more news here. I said a lot. But there's a lot to say. You can tell how busy we've been, can you not? It really has been a crazy couple of weeks. I am more well rested today than I was a week ago, for sure, because a week ago we were really in the middle of it, weren't we? But things have chilled out a little bit. I was able to transfer, like I said, I transferred my character finally from Landreval Stampion, went to Peregrine, and the transfer button took seconds. It was just like it used to be. I hit the button, select the character, said, yep, email showed up, boom. I logged in literally 20 seconds later, and I'm good to go. And I had no problems whatsoever with my transfer. So, great news there. Customer support. The other thing, I guess, I've probably spent a very large amount of my work week responding to, dealing with, forwarding through, and things like that is a lot of customer support related reach outs to me. We know that there are a ton of you out there still with unresolved transfer related issues, and we do have customer support working through the queue as quickly as they can. And we know that we've added an additional layer of stress because of housing opening on Monday. Ultimately, we had to make that decision of when do we open housing? When do the demands that we open housing crest the work that still needs to be done? And we believe we're there. But that said, we also know that there are people with outstanding customer support tickets and things like that we do need to get to, and we are working through that stuff as quickly as we can. No, the new servers will be based in the current locations of the other 64-bit worlds. So Europe and kind of more West Coast-ish. All right. Don't over caffeinate. Sorry. I actually haven't had that much coffee today, but I am a bit of a coffee junkie, so that's how it goes. I think you can blame my days in radio, but maybe I found the job that was suited to me. Like, do you become a coffee drinker because of your job, or do you get your job because you're a coffee drinker? That's what I'm saying. Are there any plans to have the info show when you hit the lanterns near the Bounder's Bounty statue, as they don't seem to show information for them on the new world? That is going to be an outstanding task that we're going to have to get to. I believe essentially what it does on the 32-bit worlds is call some kind of HTML style web article, which is what that list that populates in the little browser thing there. So I think that's the way it works, and I believe it's a matter of either just hooking it up or making fixing an issue with what it's trying to call to. But I think there's also a question: is there not about what information should be displayed there? And I think that that may be also an outstanding question because if I recall, there's some server specific text on those things, and so we'll either need to consolidate that text or figure out what we want to do, right? So, but I and all the list of things we've had to deal with over the past, say, 3 weeks, the Bounder's Bounty Fountain has been a we'll get to that later kind of a thing. So sadly, that's where we are right now on that. What is the deciding factor on opening new neighborhoods? A percentage of houses sold. Yes, yes, it's something basically like that. I don't think it's necessarily a overall strict percentage, but it's some kind of percentage of available types and things. It gets complicated, I think, but in general, yeah. Once enough properties have been purchased, it'll automatically open up more neighborhoods. So let me do a couple more questions before I get to the housing talk. Target the new servers in both EU and USA at a quieter crowd, i.e. Glamdring and Orcris at hardcore, Peregrine Meriadoc at RP types, and the new servers at the more laid-back types. That is a player consideration, but in general, it's not based on much reality, either in the current 32-bit worlds or these new 64-bit worlds. That kind of segregation by player type per world is maybe 20% of the population, maybe. It's, most people just play on the world they play on, and they don't really get into that kind of gatekeeping or sort of tribalism. It just doesn't exist in the real game. So you do see general population trends, but they're usually as much as who's playing where as it is player type. Like, PvP has kind of consolidated over the years to like Arkenstone Evernight, but it's not because it's a PvP server. It's just that's where the PvP players started playing, and so it became known for that. But there are also the same number of people playing other types on those worlds. Is there any talk of like a special event, promotion, some kind of compensation for, quote, when this is all over, unquote? Yes. We'll have more information about that later. Let's get through housing first, huh? Is there a way for Treebeard players to have a slower leveling experience after they transfer to Glamdring or Peregrine? Sadly, no. We don't have it's a server property for Treebeard, so that's why it can't be done on an individual character level. We could certainly create something like that, but I think the reality is, given the general population trend of Treebeard, I don't know that we could justify all the effort that would be involved in something like that. You can do it in a kind of hacky way by enabling the smell the roses or whatever, and you could kind of handle it that way through some sort of self-developed system to slow you down. But otherwise, no. Yeah, I mean, there are ways to do it, but you're going to be like equipping items and sort of doing it as a choice rather than a server setting or speak to an NPC and get it kind of a thing. Could it be changed to? Could the Stone of the Tortoise be changed to slow XP rather than zero XP? I think if we were going to do something like that, we would probably need to make it a separate item as well, because I think the number of people who would like it to be zero XP also exist. So I think that trying to change it would cause an outcry, but maybe I'm wrong there. All right, let me get to just a little bit of news. That I've been talking news, but let me put a few things on the board here and kind of go through a couple of bits of information so that you're up to speed come Monday, because we got stuff happening. We got big stuff happening, and let's talk about it here on the show. So that's not the right thread. You can take a look at that, however. Where's my thread? You know, here we are. Grr. Sometimes, you want to punch your monitor. Will this work? All right. Here we are. So I want to go through really what we have going on, which is that come Monday, noon Eastern, on the European worlds, we're going to be opening up housing. It's going to start with Meriadoc at noon, and then 10 minutes later, we're going to open things up on Orchrist. We're doing that 10-minute gap for a whole bunch of reasons, up to and including the fact that we're doing a little bit of work when this happens, right? We're not just flipping a switch, although we are doing that too. All the housing brokers are going to show up, and then we're going to be adding additional brokers through all the starter zone stable masters and a whole bunch of other places as well. We're going to be spawning them so that not, so we don't have 400 people trying to hit the Cape of Belfilis broker in Bree. Although I would expect to see 100 plus people trying to hit the Cape of Belfilis broker in Bree. Just saying, don't go there. Instead, go to, let me put this up. Hopefully this works. Yay. We'll be adding extra housing brokers for each neighborhood at all starting area stable masters as Mickle Delving, Kellendim, Thorin's Hall, Mossword, and Coombe. Please note, housing can only be purchased through the housing brokers. The for sale signs will not be available. Repeat, the for sale signs will not be available. You need to speak to a broker if you want to buy a house on Monday. We will also have temporary threads. I've already created them on both the Lotro forums and the Lotro Discord, where we can funnel all housing talk. So you got a question, you go on and report a bug, you run into something weird, that's where you tell us. All individual neighborhoods within a region will be available when housing opens. It's not going to it depends on the region as to how much housing is available. But let's say it'll be all 205 or 240 or it depends. It's usually somewhere in the range of about 200 to 250 neighborhoods per region. They're all going to open at the same time. All right. So then on Monday evening, 6 p.m., 6:10 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing the same thing on Glamdring and Peregrine. We're going to be doing this every day next week. Monday's Belfalis, Tuesday is Eastfold Erebor, Wednesday is Kingstead Lindleby, Thursday is Breland Falathorn, Friday is the Shire and Thorns Hall. And noon, 12:10, 6, 6:10. We're going to be opening up housing and a rollout that way. Biggest question we've received is, why can't I just camp out a neighborhood and use the for sale sign? That makes the most sense. Understood that there was a plan where we wanted to try to offer that, but what we've discovered is that we couldn't have the for sale signs open and roll out housing by region over time. There was a technical issue blocking that. So it was either all regions open and the for sale signs open, or a rollout by region by day and make it go to the brokers. And so we opted for the latter there, for a whole bunch of reasons, technical and otherwise. So I'm going to, obviously we want Monday. We want Monday to go great. We hope it goes great. If you were on Meriadoc at 12:01 p.m. on Monday, it is going to be nuts. So please do prepare for a little bit of a housing rush and some crazy times. We're going to do the best we can. We believe everything should be able to handle what we're doing. It's why we're doing it this way. And now we'll see how reality either plays along or doesn't. So that's where we are. But all signs point to good. So things are going to look pretty good. Hopefully you'll be able to get the house you want. You'll be able to get the properties you want. And if we need to add to the total number of neighborhoods, we can do that work. It will be something like that would need to be done maybe in a patch. So there would be a process if we need to add neighborhoods. We can't just do it on the fly. But we could do that work. And we'll see if we need to. Probably are going to need to, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see. Show me the new coffer, and I'm not using the word that you used. Apparently players have been able to see some language of a thing that we're doing. I'll have more information about that soon, but I can't tell you much more about it today. Sorry. I will double check on your question, Juan Finor, about whether the 100% RIT refund policy also applies to the 64-bit worlds during the land rush. Jog my brain, if you remember. Is the 100% RIT return currently available on Glamdring and Orcrist and Meriadoc and Peregrine? Because it'll be whatever it currently is. But I have to admit, in all the craziness of the couple of weeks here, I don't remember what we've done. I don't know if we've done that or not. So I can't remember if we said it on the other worlds or not. So, all right. Before I move in game, let me do just a little bit more news. All right. I did want to put up a couple of other bits of news. Individual neighborhood housing brokers may not appear with the rest of the housing brokers. These NPCs are going to load upon recreation of the neighborhood instance following execution of the opening of Purchase a Housing. So it's a little technical, but the way it's going to work in game is because we're not bringing the game worlds down. We're doing this where they'll appear. They'll appear as soon as it has an available instance to spawn into. But on those housing instances, it's going to, if players are in there when we run the command, then it's going to have to wait until that instance collapses and a new instance forms. And that's a natural part of the process that typically happens unless you're in the middle of a land rush. So the odds of, we can't really guarantee that individual neighborhood housing brokers are going to be there. And in fact, it seems somewhat likely they won't be. when we turn everything on. But they will show up eventually, because at some point there'll be like a 5-minute period where things chill out, and then a new version of the instance will get created, and then that'll have the NPC in it. So they're going to show up eventually. It just might take a little while on individual neighborhood housing brokers. So my suggestion is go to one of the other housing brokers, and they're going to be at all the stable masters of the starting areas, like Mickle Delvin, Kellendim, and the other list I just gave. So do that instead. Mossword and Coombe, and Thorns Hall. A couple other bits of news. The Spring Festival has been extended by another week. That was set to end this next week. That will now end at 3 a.m. Eastern on April 9th. April 9th for the Spring Festival. A bit of work underway with this thing. We did release Tier 2 of Temple of Utagabur this week, and yesterday we had to disable Wing 3 because of a bug. However, overnight, the team was able to develop a way to modify the raid in place to correct this issue, so we were able to reopen Wing 3 of Tier 2 of Temple of Utagabur shortly before I went live today on the air. So we're going to get out other wording about that, but we've got a little bit of announcement on that, and just saying that here, that Wing 3 is back open. Let me quick go into service news and look up what I stated. Here we go. Timing for Tier 3 of Temple of Utagabur. That will now open at noon Eastern on April 10th. Noon Eastern, April 10th. Tier 3, Temple of Utagabur. The Leading the Charge deed, however, has not been extended. It was already extended, and it's 3 a.m. on June 1st, so by the time June 1st rolls around, you will certainly have had your opportunity. So we left that one in place for this. But Tier 3 has basically been moved out another week, and it's not really due to technical considerations there. It's simply that because we're still in the middle of some level of transfers and housing and things, we didn't want to open Tier 3 until people were a little bit more settled. So that's what's up with that. Otherwise, it is going to be a bit of a busier week for events. Right now, this weekend, we have a 10% loot box Embers and Moats boost, and that runs through the 30th. However, it's back. It is coming back. It's now part of the game. Isn't that sweet? On April 1st, the April Fool's Chicken Run will return. It'll start actually at 10 a.m. Eastern on Monday, March 31st, and then it'll go until 3 a.m. Eastern on the 2nd. So, one day only, basically. April Fool's Chicken Run is back, and that kicks off on Monday and then runs really through Tuesday. Then we also, because it is the changeover to a new month next week as well, we do have the Hardtack crafting event coming back, and that'll start on the 1st. Not much to really mention about update 43.2. That was our patch this week. There is one thing I would call out, however. Okay. And that is that we have upped the item level of loot box gear in this patch. And additionally, there's some new Vivid Essence boxes available to barter with the Adventurer's Quartermaster, and then also from loot boxes. And then we've otherwise done a lot of bug fixing. And Temple of Utagabur in particular was really the focus of this patch. We have a very small patch set for next week. I think it's probably a couple of the Wing 3 issues that we just talked about, in addition to the coffer, a little bit of work on that coffer that people have apparently already discovered, that we'll have more information about soon. So, but that'll be a small patch next Wednesday. If there's any further housing or transfer related work that we would need to do during that downtime, that would probably be the target for that as well. And I think we're up to date on everything. Let me switch in game just so you got something to look at that isn't the same thing you've been staring at for 20 minutes. And get to your questions. Is there any plan to release Mirkwood on Angmar Mordor before April 30th? That is, I don't have that in front of me right now. Let me see if I can call that up real quick. That is listed in the public event schedule, but I don't think it's. When is that set for, though? Yeah, Mirkwood will be around April 30th. And we'll have more specifics as to the timing of that when we get closer, but I believe that it would be roughly set for a patch on April 30th. But that's going to happen. Is there any more work planned for clipping on elves and high elves? One of the things that the art team often has to do with this is play whack-a-mole with individual item placement and item issues. So yes, they have been doing that work and will be doing further work there. Does the housing broker unavailability until respawn include the Bree housing broker vendors in the house? I believe so. Because if they're not currently visible in the homestead space, then what the command does is it makes it visible when it can, but it can't make visible something that doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist because the instance in which the homestead was created does not have that NPC yet. So the way it works then is upon subsequent load of the instance space, it says, all right, I need to put a housing broker in. And so I think that would include really any form of broker within an instance that is currently not available. But you're right that the guidance may change slightly when we're talking about classic housing. But as far as I think what I stated will still be the case. I don't know that question about the instance cluster for Enedwaith, Shamkus. I don't know. It would be whatever it was originally. So typically, if it came out afterwards, then it came out afterwards with the release of a thing that is being released later. Then that's going to be the case on the legendary worlds as well. That's true. Just to make things even more complicated for you poor Europeans, now you're finally joining us on daylight saving time. Won't your life be so much better? No. No, we should get rid of daylight saving time. But nonetheless, yes, we've been on this weird offset for 3 weeks or so now, and now the US and Europe are going to be on the same GMT offset relative to daylight saving time. Right now we're 5 hours apart. Come Sunday or whatever, we're going to be 6 hours apart. It's going to take an hour longer to get there. I think that's how it works. For those of us who choose sanity over getting housed the first day, does housing, personal, and kin escrow have a time limit before our stuff is lost? No. That's been a concern throughout this transfer period because of pre-2013 guidance that made it into some outdated CS articles. But it hasn't been the case since at least 2013, and maybe even earlier than that. I'm not talking about a glitch issue, actually, Alta. I'm just mean in general, is the writ returned 100% on Glamdring and Orcrist? I'm aware that there was a period on, was it Meriadoc or whatever, where things got wonky, but that is a specific issue. I'm just mean in general, what's the server setting? So. Oh, sorry. Related to opening up the Shire at noon Eastern, right when next Friday's Court of the Rings is going to be. I'm not doing a show next week. Sorry, I haven't gotten to that yet, but I am not doing a show next week. It's not related to the transfers, though. I actually have some PTO next week, some time off. So although I'm going to be around for all this housing stuff, I'm otherwise taking taking some lower hours next week. And one of the things I'm cutting is my shows. So I'll see you in 2 weeks after this one. Also, you're right. It probably wouldn't be a good idea to try to open housing and do that work while I'm on the air. I didn't even think about that until now. That's how in the moment I am. It depends how many housing brokers are being added. Will it be one for each homestead or several types of them? Um, what we're basically going to do for, like, say, when it comes time for Belphalis, is we're going to spawn a whole bunch of Belphalis housing brokers. We're actually going to have an admin in the game world and just going boink, 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 and just spawning them all over the place. But we also, so at that space, you'll have multiple NPCs to speak to. At least that's the plan. Uh, Within that space, but we need to spread you out a little bit too. But then the other main thing we're doing is we're going to be doing a basically an automatic process that's going to auto spawn these things by a command we run on all the stable master starter zones, and that's where I would recommend. Don't deal with the crowds in Bree. Go to whatever of your choice. We'll see. Okay, I think I've caught up to chat. Nice. Can Miss Lizzie have her own stream? Actually, just I part of the reason I'm taking some time off next week is she is going to the VET and has some dental work to get done because she is a little bit of an elderly kitty at this point and has a couple of bad teeth that need to get taken care of. So I'm going to be taking care of poor Miss Lizzie next week as well. So yeah. That's the plan, Druid's Fire is at least that's the plan. Last I heard yesterday is as needed because we don't want, say, like the Belfast housing broker and Bree to have everyone trying to speak to the one NPC. So we have the ability to just temporarily put a couple of them around the area. Are the programmers working on a transfer between Europe and America? Not at the moment actively. There are other things that they're working on related to transfers and things. But no, that historic restriction between US and EU is a big one, and it's unclear if it can ever get resolved. Yeah, they're like clones. Everyone just pretend, figure it out. No, it's just the Belfless brokers' identical quintuplets showed up to help. You just didn't know it. They've been actually rotating in on shifts. You just didn't see it. But they all showed up at once this time, so, you know. Mickle Delving is going to be busy. It's all going to be busy. Um, I don't know what my guidance is. I don't know if you should try or not. I guess we'll see how it goes on Monday. I know I'm not doing it. I'll be busy with work, but even so. You do you. It's gonna be nuts. Hopefully it'll work. And that's everything we've been putting in many hours to try to get this this really one of the final pieces of the initial transfer period done. Ride my war steed. So I know I'm supposed to. Players like the war steed riding because it's faster, blah blah blah. I don't like riding my war steed. I like riding my regular steed. Also, I'm in totally the wrong place, like usual. Oh my gosh. Wait, where can I get back? How do I get back? How do I get back on this train? Do I have to go all the way around again? Fine. Oh, okay. Well, I can get this scorpion. I'm working through chapter 12.5 is what I'm doing here. So I got scorpion stingers, Zazaru bristles, and toad legs to take care of. So let's do that. Do you know why I don't like riding? I mean, war steeds are fine. I just don't use it. And do you know why? Because I prefer to be able to hit the numlock. What button do I push now? Is it insert or numlock? Whatever button it is for auto roll. And then I've got my hands free. That's why I like riding a regular steed. And if I have to lose 10% speed to get there, Is Monday the only day you can purchase a Belphilus home until all regions are open? No. The way this is going to be cumulative. So we're going to leave, say, Belphilus open when we open the next region. And then those two regions will be open when we open the third, and that kind of thing. So it'll remain open pending availability. And we'll see how quickly things fill up here come Monday. But my expectation is there will certainly be homes to purchase. But I would also expect certain types of homes to face a real land rush. And I think the community is also perhaps well aware of that. Alright, now I got Zizanu bristles and toad legs. That's up a little bit. So let's get on my steed. My Oryx. Will there be a new French or German? Oh, it is numlock. It is numlock. First I was like, no, I'm not using my numpad to auto-run, but then yes, I totally am. Okay. Oh, this is going to let me get up here. I don't think it will. Nope. Alright. Will there be a new French or German EU server? It will be an EU server, and it'll be open to players from all regions, just like the existing EU servers are. We do have an intention to offer specific French and German chat channels. That's on our to-do list for as soon as we can basically get it done. But it's not for a specific, it's just a general regional server rather than country specific or language specific. Oh, hi, Toad. Sorry. How long will the extra housing brokers be around? The intention is to have them available till the throughout really this transfer period, and then let them go. So what does that mean exactly? Uh, if we can keep them open and available for the 24-hour period leading up to the next region's housing, we will. It's not entirely clear that we're going to be able to do that, but that's the plan anyway. Because we are, after all, like I said, this is an admin going in and just dealing with the land rush. It could also be that it'll be really a 15-20 minute issue, and then after about 20 minutes, a half hour, it won't be necessary. And then if it requires a whole bunch of work to do, then probably not do that work if we don't need to. But we'll see how things go. We're prepared to do that if we need to. Okay. So now I just need Zizanu bristles, and they're just in this area a bit to the north. I should rebind that. But like I say, I guess I've just kind of, the reason I should just say for the record, the reason I don't know it's numlock is because I haven't had lettering on that key in years. It's all worn out. I have no idea what button it is. I guess it is numlock. I had to do a little bit of a keyboard query in my head. So I would say that you can transfer now. I waited through the rush myself because I didn't want to take someone else's spot during the craziness. But also because I was busy with work and everything, and I was just like, well, you know what? And I also wanted to preserve my account in case I needed to repro something. Once you transfer a character, I wanted to be able to maybe do it just to test things if I needed to. But everything was, I didn't need to, and ultimately last weekend it was an instant transfer, so I would say if you've been waiting to transfer, go for it. There's no hurry if you're not in a hurry. Like, the servers aren't going anywhere, but if you want to transfer and you just didn't want to transfer when it was all nuts, I would say that your time has come. When is housing opening? It'll start on a rolling basis by region through the week next week, and it kicks off at noon Eastern on Monday with the Belfalis housing. Alright. Now go on back to Urmok. I know someone is saying a sentiment that is certainly shared by others, which is, I better get my house or else I'm done. And certainly people who have developed a love for their homes over the decades, certainly understandable that you've grown attached to it. I guess I would say, though, that there's a lot of housing in Lotro. Maybe you should keep an open mind. Maybe if you find yourself in a position where the house that you want is taken, it could also be an opportunity to find a new best house. So, just think about it. Just think about it. No, someone said this in chat. Okay. All right, or don't, you do you. Whatever you want to do. Will there be a kinship rename in-game token, same as name change? Probably. Probably is the answer to that. We're working on creating some kind of technology that will allow us to more elegantly allow for a large number of kinship renames. And because we're not there yet, I can't necessarily say with certainty what we're going to do. But something like a kinship rename token, similar to the way it works for character renames, is definitely the way, would be a nice solution if we can get there. It's true, also, Glorfin Wing, that we have kinships who are attached to whole neighborhoods and things as well. So, understood. Have I discussed the upcoming Hunter revamp? I have not, Naomi, 17. I would suggest that we are on the cusp of being able to publish next week our letter to the players, and Orion does get into some of the class rework, scheduling, I think, in particular in the letter. Short answer as to when we'll have more information about the what are we doing with Hunter is going to be within the next couple of months, later this year as we get closer to summer. Okay. Let's talk to Sheruk.
This work of yours is a help to me, but
Thanks, but you're still a jerk, I guess is what the dude just told us. In-game. Alright, Rahazi.
Sirgon is eager to prove the worth of his king and his kingdom.
Then let his
And
friends prove.
his trust is not misplaced.
There are cultists of Barkush throughout Imhular and in the city of Kur Enzar, Stampion. Deal them a grave injury, and then the folks of the village will understand Sirgon's trust in his liege lord. Alright, so I'm heading up to Imhular, or just outside, and taking care of some unwanted visitors. How often do the mannequin outfits get updated like the ones in Bree? I see that work generally as a task in a Teams chat. Like, hey, we just updated him. I think, isn't it roughly monthly? I'm going off the top of my head here, and I'm sure that someone on the team has a solid answer for you. But I thought it was roughly monthly, wasn't it? Okay, I am not yet seeing... Alright, well, they're being a little elusive, some of these enemies of which I'm supposed to clear out. Maybe I have to go off-road a bit more. There we go. See if they can count. Yeah, both the mannequins and there's also some mount-related things too, right? Because they'll do the Warsteed rotation. I tend to see thing about the Warsteed cosmetic rotation as well. They do. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I can't remember now. Oh no, one of them is T-posing. Well, I would say that we do have work that we're doing on Lelia's Market, and was that the last Cave Troll podcast where Orion and Scenario talked about that? Something like that? But, yeah. So some of the T-posing in that could be a remnant of that work. What face is on the champion skill I have in slot 2? The Wild Attack? It's just a quick one, and it adds to my fervor so that I can pop the Battle Frenzy. Bang, bang, bang. That's sort of what I use it for. We are not opening homes today. It'll be starting on Monday. And you can find information about exact timing of regions and such over on the forums or in the Lotro Discord. I am not yet seeing my Tumultists, so perhaps let's head a little further east. Well, I think we're also getting pretty close to the end of the stream here, so got a few minutes yet, though. What made us choose to do 6 p.m.? Yeah, you heard me say noon was ideal at one point. That is true. So when we're looking at if we can pick one time, what one time fits best for the entire world, there is no answer. But the best answer we largely have come up with is roughly around noon Eastern because it covers the widest swath of people who are typically awake from the west coast of the United States through the eastern parts of Europe. And of course, then that means everyone else is not part of that, but to some extent it's a rolling time zone thing, right? So by doing 6 p.m., we roll through the night, really throughout Europe and other parts, and through the earlier mornings west of the United States, and just kind of deal with it that way. However, if you're talking about a specific region, what is the best time zone? Generally, that's considered prime time, and prime time is generally considered something like about 6 to 10 p.m. In whatever local time zone you're in. So in that case, it's actually better to do 6 p.m., which is why that's what we're doing. It's weird because, it's like, it gives everyone a chance to be off work. Meanwhile, I'm not off work at 6 p.m. most days, so okay. But, when you think about it in the widest possible context, it gives people an opportunity to get off work and then do their transfers. TTV wants to know about Ettenmoor's performance. You report the lag was minimal after the update Wednesday, and then as of last night was back to a slideshow that you have seen of late. We did get some different feedback on that it was not fine after the Wednesday update. But it's good to report that you saw something different. At its core, the problem with PvMP on the new 64-bit worlds is there are simply too many people trying to go into the same space. The game cannot really properly do, 50 versus 50 fights. Especially if they fall along certain regions of the game and things. So how we solve that problem, we did a little bit of work to further reduce the maximum size per team on the 64-bit worlds, and you saw a little bit of that. But we want to be able to also facilitate the gameplay that players want to be able to do. So it's a bit of a moving target where we need to work on systemic things, land block related issues, server related issues and that. But also, we need to find ways to encourage people to not just sort of have these massive cluster fights. And if you've got the solution to that one, let me know. There could be more areas for PvP in the future, sure. One of the challenges they ran into back in the day is player behavior, which is ultimately people wanted to group together and fight. Makes sense. Natural, right? Okay. But that meant that if you had multiple regions, you'd have one region that people were using and one region that people never used. And, or didn't use in very significant numbers. And so you kind of got into some issues where you need to also kind of figure out how you encourage people to actually do that stuff and not just sort of have these massive blob fights in the landscape. I know, and but like someone was saying, but the massive cluster fights are fun. Yeah, exactly right. You've identified the core of the problem. Yeah. You don't want to say fun is a problem, but in this case, it's a problem in that it is the reason we have what we have in PvMP. Among other things. Like I say, there is work that we are doing related to where on the landscape fights can take place, where does those land block boundaries happen, and try to be cognizant of that. And there's other things that we can do systemically as well that perhaps Orion could talk more about on the next Cave Troll podcast, or at something like that, when you get an opportunity to ask him specifically to go more into the detail of PvMP. Well, see, then you get to the other problem, Amy. Whereas if you encourage 1v1 fights too much, then you're just encouraging farming. You're just encouraging friend farming, or bot farming, right? So you've got... There's never one solution, nor one problem, You're basically trying to take a cloud and fit it into a box. And that's how you do it. So... Well, I think I'm gonna... Actually, I'm not seeing... I guess I need to probably go to a different part of the landscape to take care of these cultists, and I'm a few minutes over at this point, so I'm going to call the show, I think, right here. So thanks so much for watching Court of the Rings on twitch.tv/LotraStream. If you're watching on YouTube afterwards or something like that, really do appreciate it if you give me a like or a subscribe. I do read the comments on YouTube. I don't respond to many YouTube comments, I'm sorry. It's just a generally good practice. But I do read them. The good and the bad. Yeah, I saw what you said about me. I'm not taking it personal, though. And hope you've got a good weekend in store for the Lord of the Rings Online. We do have a lot happening. Good luck on housing. I will be busy this next week with messaging and other things. So, good luck. Wish us luck. I will see you in 2 weeks. Have fun.